Hello, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do something a little bit different today and talk about writing. I am an editor. I have been editing novels, dissertations, nonfiction for more than a decade, nearly 15 years now. I wanted to start with getting started. How can you beat a blank page? The most important things that you can do to beat a blank page are: first, you need to plan, and second, you need to plan, and third, you need to plan. I know. It's like the real estate, location, 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 but I actually mean it kind of like this. The best ways to beat a blank page: first are by planning your story. Second, plan your scenes. And third, plan your day. These are the three things I found that have helped me write so relatively prolifically while working a job, having kids, all of the other things going on in my life over the past 10, 12 years. So first, when you are planning your story, the first thing that you can do when you are deciding what story you want to tell is to create a query, the back cover copy, a synopsis, something that gives you a general overview of the story you want to tell. Who is the main character? What do they want and what's stopping them? What are the stakes if they don't succeed? If you get this down on the paper, even if it's going to change while you're writing, it will change while you're writing. Just accept it's going to change while you're writing. But if you get this down and you see that there is a character that has an interesting story, they have a conflict, and there are inherent stakes, then you're onto something. There's something really, really powerful in that you can then use as you continue writing, and you know that you have enough story to build on. But let's get into a few more specifics. I'm not going to go into a deep dive right now. I will make videos on this in the future. If that's something you want, let me know and I will prioritize it. But you also can consider your story genre. Are you writing romance? Are you writing fantasy? Are you writing sci-fi? And along with genre, the age. Are you writing middle grade? Are you writing for adults? Are you writing for young adults? The genre and the age category together are going to give you a lot of expectations about how your book will look. The story structure. I'm thinking about Save the Cat here, especially the different brands of Save the Cat: institutionalized, the buddy story, the golden fleece, all of these different story structures that can provide you with a framework for your own story. Structure provides so much creative freedom, and you end up being able to tell a better story, I feel like, within constraints. Along those lines, tropes and expectations of your genre and structure. If you're writing a romance and you don't have a happily ever after, you're not writing a romance. Do you want to play with tropes like only one bed or enemies to lovers? Those sorts of things. Are you going to do a fantasy with found family coming together? These are all expectations you can build into your story from the beginning that will help you fight the blank page when you get there. Some resources for macro storytelling: Save the Cat writes a novel, or Save the Cat in general if you're working on a screenplay. Save the Cat writes a YA novel is a great resource that I feel like goes into a lot of detail about the different story genres in particular. The website Helping Writers Become Authors by KM Weiland, and she has a YouTube channel as well. Those I found really useful. I send them to clients all the time and refer to them myself. And then TV Tropes can provide you a list of just a bunch of tropes that you can either choose to work with or work against in your writing. Next, let's talk about how to plan your scenes. This is a lot more specific, obviously, than planning your whole story. What does it look like? The first thing that you have is an active scene. This is what people usually think of when they think of a scene. The main character has a goal, or the point of view character has a goal, face conflict in reaching it, and their action leads to an outcome. It's often a disaster. They try to get something, it doesn't happen. That is an active scene. What a lot of times I find missing when I'm editing stories, and even in my own work occasionally, is a more passive sequel. What this is are the moments where you process what happened. There is not an active goal yet. The character is going to process the previous outcome and disaster. They're going to regroup with a reaction, a dilemma, and then a decision. And that decision becomes the goal in the next scene. Let's go ahead and take a look at this in a little bit more detail. I'm not going to, again, create like a masterclass on storytelling in this video. It's not what it's about, but I do think that this can help when you are stuck with a blank page, you don't know where to go from a scene that you just did. A sequel might be what you're missing. So let's talk about them. They provide a chance to reflect. You can get inside the character's head. We learn how they process information, what matters to them, what they prioritize when making decisions, and the reader has a chance to breathe before the next active scene. Same with the character. Now, the length of a sequel, sometimes I find them too long. In addition to sometimes not existing, there's a middle ground to be found. They can be as short as a sentence or as long as a chapter or more. It depends on how intense the outcome of the last goal was. Maybe it's really, really clear what the next action needs to be and they just need to take a breath and do it. Maybe they are in a place where they need to wallow for a little while. The Dark Night of the Soul moment in Save the Cat Structure is a sequel, and you can spend as much as like 3 to 5% of your story in that moment regrouping. So they can also vary by genre. In literary fiction, the whole book can act as a sequel, it feels like sometimes. In fantasy and sci-fi and thrillers, these are going to be much shorter because those books are more focused on the story and the plot than they are on the character development in most cases. But now let's talk about what I think is actually the most important thing that you can do to fight a blank page, and that is planning your day. I always start. That's not true. My best writing sessions start with pre-writing first. Now, what do I mean by pre-writing first? A brain dump. Spend 1 to 5 minutes writing whatever you need to. I am so hungry right now. I should get some water. I was just thinking about this bill that I have to pay. Whatever. Or something related to your book. I'm really struggling. I feel like the story isn't coming together. This is probably the worst story ever written by anybody in the history of the universe. Write it down. Get it out of your mind. Get your words loosened. Get your fingers typing. This is as important as like a vocal warm-up when you're singing, right? And then I write down, in my best days, I write down my session goals. I like to set a daily goal, and this version of the goal varies depending on where I am in the writing process. Maybe it's write 2,000 words. Maybe it's edit one scene or one chapter. Maybe it's sit down and untangle a plot knot. I also will write down anything that has been on my mind, maybe a big picture change or an addition to my plan I want to make that day. That helps me focus and also create a benchmark, compare myself against at the end. You're not going to write a novel in a day. Novel writing happens in such little chunks that it can feel like that tiny little minuscule progress is nothing. So I feel like setting a target of something much smaller that you can actually achieve in one writing session helps me feel accomplished and then stay on task. As a bonus, use a template. I have a template that has all of these pre-writing, all 3 of them, planning your story, planning your scene, and planning your day, are all included in my template. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, starting with planning your day. When you start a new day in your daily writing tracker, you just press new. It will load with today, pre-writing, and goals. As you scroll down, there's a place to free write, to brain dump. You can type in it as fast as you want to, whatever you need. Then you can go down and write your goal, your thoughts to develop, and your roadmap additions directly into this pre-writing page that you can then keep a record of what you do. There's also a place you can do an end of session review once you finish to note whether you achieved your goal and any thoughts you have about how to start work tomorrow. Now, within the scenes in this template, there are 3 sections already set up: brainstorming, scene structure, and then actually writing the scene. The brainstorming is like a brain dump, but more related to the writing. What do you think needs to happen here? Which characters? What are some ideas and opportunities you can develop? And then there's the scene structure, active, and the sequel, where you can write specific goals, conflicts, outcomes, then the reaction, the dilemma, and the decision can go directly into the page. And now you're not working from a blank page anymore. So I do think that one of the best ways to combat a blank page is to make it not blank, but also make the words that you write on the page be related to the story in some way, and ideally something you type right then. So I hope this helps you beat the blank page, whether you are just starting a new project or it's the blank page you face every day when you sit down to work. Let me know how it goes in the comments, and I will see you soon.